And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a small game called Dudab, which is apparently the song that Camptown ladies sing. Dudab is a game from the caveman days, and in this, you are hunting and gathering and whatever. Oh, Dudab means sorry, by the way. So this game is essentially called Sorry. Seems familiar, but this is actually a card game in which you're just playing cards at a table, matching numbers and colors, or actually not matching numbers and colors. Let me show you. There are 4 different colors of cards: yellow, red, green, blue. There's 4 different types of cards: the hand, the skin, the mammoth, and the club. And then there's 4 numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's every combination. So there's 64 different cards, and there's only one of each. So there's only one red mammoth 4, for example. And you're going to have these cards, and in the middle of the table, you're going to have some cards that will start columns. Now, depending on how many players, if you're playing with more than 4 players, you'll have 3 columns. Otherwise, there will simply be 2 columns in the middle of the table. On your turn, you have some options. You can draw a card to your hand, and that's your turn. However, if you have 5 cards in your hand, you cannot take that option unless you cannot play. You can play a card, which is your other option, to the table. When you play a card, it has to be a different color and a different shape than one of these, and 1 number higher or less. So this 3 would work here on top of this 2 because it's a different color and a different shape. It would not work, and it's 1 higher than 2. It would not work on the 4 because the mammoths are the same. It would not work on the 1 because, well, it's 2 higher than 1, not 1 higher. So I could place that one here. If you ever end up placing the 6th card to a column, then you will have to take all the rest of the cards in that column, put them in front of yourself, and the 6th card that you had played starts the next column. So you never want to do that because you don't want cards in front of you. Just like if you have 5 cards in your hand and you can't play any of those cards, and you have to draw a card, you will immediately take one of your cards and discard it down in front of you in your pile of cards that will count against you at the end of the game. There are also shaman cards in the game. When one of these is played, they have to be played in the same color. So this yellow could be played on top of this. The next person either can play a shaman or a Dudab card, or if they don't have one of those, they have to turn over the next card of the deck, and that's how many cards they have to draw into their hand. Again, if that takes them over 5, the extra cards that they have will have to go into the pile in front of them. And then there is the Dudab card itself. This can be played anytime, anywhere, really. And when you play a Dudab card, you basically say the next person must play a mammoth card. And if that person can't, they have to draw a card. And you keep going till someone, maybe even yourself, will play a mammoth card. I put that on the wrong side. There we go. Dudab. This will continue, and you're going to go through the thing until you draw the last card of the draw pile. At that point, you're going to go to the scoring phase. At the end of the game, each Dudab card in your hand is going to be worth 5 points, so you don't want to hold on to these. You're going to go through all the cards in a pile in front of you, and each of these shaman and Dudabs, if you have one, will cancel each other out, and they're discarded. Each other Dudab that you have that's not been canceled by a shaman, you pick one of the number cards, and basically it's going to turn that card into a negative number of points. So this will turn this into negative 4 points. You will then add up all the rest of your cards, and those will be positive points. Whoever has the fewest points is the winner of the game. In many ways, Dudab reminds me of a slow version of a game called 6 Mint or 5 Alive, or there's a whole lot of different versions of it, mixed with maybe some shades of Uno style. Essentially, you are playing cards, and there's some very interesting ebb and flow here. You're never allowed to have less than 2 cards. So at the end of your turn, if you have less than 2 cards, you have to draw a card. All right, so you can't never have no cards in your hand, but you're trying to always keep your hand at 2 cards. And the reason for that is once one of the columns gets to 5, you don't want to finish that column. So you want to make sure your hand is free to, on your turn, you say, oh, I'm just drawing a card. Because once you have 5 cards, you're in the danger zone. The best you can hope for is that you can't take that row and column and you just draw a card and discard one. Okay, not a problem. But If you can take that, then you're taking 5 cards, which could be a lot of points. Although there is the occasional time you want to take a column because there's a Dudab card in it. You definitely don't want the Shaman at all. And so there's that interesting thing. The Shaman had that whole draw 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's basically what it is. It's draw a random number of cards to the next player, unless that player can play a Shaman. So you might want to keep one so that you can, kind of save yourself from that. But at the same time, again, that's a card that you can almost always play, and so you don't want to keep it too long. I'm making the game sound probably more strategic than it is. It is still pretty light. It's not as light as, say, Uno, but at the same time, it's not like you're sitting there heavily. You're essentially just playing cards and kind of pushing your luck a little bit, trying to keep your hand as small as possible so that you can fill it up to not finish a row column, and saving that Dudab card for the right moment, but obviously not so long that you have it in your hand at the end of the game. But that's not a problem because, again, it's a card you can play anytime. So playing that cards at the right moments, there might be some problems with matching of colors. The colors don't match with anything. So if you're red-green colorblind, that may be problematic for you. And sometimes you'll play a card and go, oh, I can play that card, and someone will say, no, those are the same shape. Oh, yeah, that's right, because that has to be different shape, different color, and a number that's 1 higher or 1 less, which means in the case of a 1, it can only be a 2, in the case of a 4, it can only be a 3. The rules could have been slightly clearer, but I was able to figure out how to play the game from them. I liked it. It was small, interesting, and unique, and had a good flow and rhythm to it, and also scales pretty well. That's Dudab. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Tom, will you please shut the door?
Dear.